As the meeting chair, I give my consent for this ordinary council meeting to be streamed live, recorded and published online. That was the bit I was waiting for. But anyone who is invited to read out a question or make a submission will be recorded, and their voice, image and comments will form part of that live stream and recording. Did you want me to repeat stuff with that? That's good. The chair and or the CEO have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming, and such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed appropriate. That they may include where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory or potentially inappropriate to be published. The live stream will stop prior to the closed section of the meeting and will recommence for the conclusion of the meeting. The public is able to view this live stream via our website at www.pyrenees.vic.gov.au. Should technical issues prevent the continuation of the live stream, the meeting will continue as long as a quorum can be maintained, and, where possible, a recording of the meeting will be published on Council's website. Where a quorum cannot be maintained, the meeting will be adjourned until the issue is resolved, or the meeting postponed to another time and date in accordance with Council's governance rules. I will now move on to our acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the people, past and present, of the Wadawurrung, Dja Dja Wurrung, Eastern Ma, Wotjobaluk, Jadwa, Jadawajala, Wergaya and Japolik nations, whose land and waters the Pyrenees Shire operates on. We pay our respects to the ancestors and elders and recognise and respect their customs, stewardship and continuing connection to country. I'll now move on to apologies, and all being present, there are none. I will now move on to notice of disclosures of interest by councillors and officers, if there are any.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to do a disclosure of interest for item number 11.1.4, planning application 25042 in Avoca, and I'll leave during that one. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wardlaw. Noted. I will now move on to the item number 6, which is confirmation of the previous meeting's minutes. The recommendation is that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council held on the 21st of July 2025 and the closed meeting of Council held on the 21st of July 2025, as previously circulated to councillors, be confirmed. I'll ask a councillor to move the recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Ferrari. Seconded, Councillor Phelan. All those in favour? And that is carried. Thank you. Moving on to item number 7, if there was any business arising from those minutes from that meeting held on the 21st of July 2025, there being none, I will now move on to item number 8, which is public participation. For our public participation, members of the community are encouraged to participate in public ordinary council meetings by asking questions or presenting a submission. This can be done by attending in person or by submitting in writing prior to 12 noon on the day of the meeting, online through Council's website, by mail or hand delivered. If a question or submission is submitted in writing, this will be read by the chair during public participation, stating the person's name and township. Question time will be held first, followed by public submissions. 30 minutes is allowed for the total period of public participation. Time extensions may be allowed at the discretion of the chair, subject to the provisions of the governance rules. A person may ask a maximum of 2 questions at any one meeting, and the chair will allocate a maximum of 5 minutes to each person who wishes to address council or ask questions. The chair, councillor or council officer to whom a question is referred may immediately answer the question or take the question on notice for answering at a later date. There will be no discussion or debate with public attendees. However, councillors may ask questions of the attendee for clarification. So I'll firstly ask if there are any members of the public that would like to speak tonight. I'm looking if that's, oh yes, if you would like to. Mr. Davey, would you like to approach a microphone?
Thanks, Douglas. Madam Mayor, I am interested in how the council is going to look at their current environmental policy due to the fact that climate change is now accelerated far beyond it ever was going to be in 2025. Global warming is really not that important. It's cyclical. What happens all the time keeps going. But with climate change, we're seeing major changes in this shire, which are affecting the animals and the stock and the plants and trees. So I was wondering when we were going to rewrite the policy, update it and make it substantial. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trevor Davey. May I pass to our CEO? Would you like to speak to that, or Mr. Gowans?
I'm happy to speak to
Take
that,
it on
Madam
notice.
Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Davey, for your question there. Certainly, you would be aware that Council recently adopted its council plan, and part of that council plan has a pillar that identifies priority area of action by Council in supporting and taking action in respect of matters that relate to the environment. Certainly as part of the implementation of that part of the council plan, Council will be looking to give some consideration to the relevant environmental issues that Council has control or has some that have some influence on council activity. So I appreciate that. I can't provide for you the details of when that might occur, but it's something that we can certainly take on notice. Council are yet to consider the initiatives part of the council plan. So there will be a report coming back to Council in the next probably either September or October council meetings for Council to endorse initiatives which identify how Council is going to be more specific in terms of implementing the strategic objectives of the council plan, and included within that are some initiatives in respect of the environment. So perhaps you could stay tuned and see what is included in those initiatives.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Davey. I would like to also note that there has been a petition received in relation to item 11.1.4 tonight. And this petition states it is in opposition to the planning permit application number PA 25042. And this is a petition to oppose the above application to house people from government institutions within our town. Avoca does not have the facilities or infrastructure to support this type of application. This petition does not in any way oppose social or affordable housing for Avoca. And there have been 374 signatures on this petition that we have received this evening. Now moving on to item number 9. Sorry,
I might just identify what we're actually going to do about that. So the petition's been received.
The petition has been received.
Yeah, and that'll be considered as part of item 11.1.4.
And will be considered as part of item 11.1.4. You don't need to move that, just that's received. Thank you. So now we'll move on to item number 9 now, thank you. And that is as part of that, the councillor activity reports. Just before we do move on to that, I just need to make one adjustment. I was not able to attend the Just a Farmer screening in Avoca. That states I did. I was interstate at the time. But with that change, I will now ask one of our councillors, please, to move a recommendation that council notes this report. Thank you, Councillor Toll. Seconded. I'll go Councillor Wardlaw. And all those in favour? And that is noted. Thank you. Item number 10 is our Assembly of Councillors that happened on the 7th of July and also on the 14th of July and the 21st of July. May I ask you, Councillor, to note those reports? Move a recommendation noting that. Councillor Toll and seconded Councillor Phelan, and all those in favour, and those reports are received. Thank you very much. We now move on to items for decision. So item 11.1.1 is in relation to the Western's Renewables link, and I'll now hand to Mr. Douglas Gowans. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to inform Council of the Western Renewables Link Environmental Effects Statement and seek approval of the key themes and messages that will form part of a submission to the Joint Inquiry and Advisory Committee, which has been appointed by the Minister for Planning. The Western Renewables Link is a proposed 500 kilovolt double circuit overhead electricity transmission line extending over 190 kilometres from Bulgana in Western Victoria to Sydenham in Melbourne's northwest. The project spans 6 local government areas, including Pyrenees Shire. And the report details a bit more of the project, but I'll take most of that as read. However, the project does include the overhead transmission lines and towers. And the transmission line will be supported by approximately 418 double circuit lattice towers, typically between 60 to 80 metres in height. And the typical span between towers for the project is between 450 and 550 metres. Access tracks will be required to each tower location to enable construction, operation and maintenance. And the proposed transmission line will be located within an easement that is 70 to 100 metres wide. There are 5 temporary laydown areas that will be required for the project. 2 of these laydown areas that are proposed to be co-located with workforce accommodation facilities southeast of Lexington and southeast of Ballan. Each workforce accommodation facility will have capacity for up to 350 people and will include individual accommodation units, a communal kitchen, meals area, laundry and a gym. The project construction is scheduled to commence in late 2026 and be completed by late 2028, pending a ministerial approval. Engagement on the project began in early 2020. The project's engagement program consisted of a combination of face-to-face and online forums, supported by digital, print and in-person methods. The Western Renewables Link requires the preparation of an EES to identify, which is an environmental effect statement, to identify, assess and mitigate the project's potential environmental, economic, social and community impacts. The Minister for Planning will assess the EES, public submissions and the recommendations in the inquiry and the advisory committee's report. And the project will require several approvals, including from the Victorian and Commonwealth governments. Pyrenees Shire Council has been engaging with AusNet and the Western Renewables Link and the EES since the project's inception in 2020. During this time, both the council and its officers have been briefed and provided important input into the EES to ensure that communities' interests are best addressed. The EES exhibition period for the project provides an opportunity for both the council and the local community to raise any objections or concerns to ensure that these matters can be heard as part of the joint inquiry and advisory committee. While council proposes to make its own submission in the interest of the Shire's views on the project and to reflect the views of the local communities, residents are encouraged to make their own submissions about their direct concerns. Council held 3 consultation sessions in the last week in Lexington, Amphitheatre and Lanesborough. The sessions were to assist officers and councillors in understanding residents' concerns, and these can be incorporated where appropriate into council's substantial submission. Provided in this report is a summary of the key matters considered in the EES as they relate to Pyrenees Shire and an outline of areas of concern. The report is quite lengthy and the issues raised, which are really important, are heavily detailed in the report. However, I'll just touch on at the highest level some of those areas where council has some concerns. Biodiversity and habitats. It's Pyrenees Shire's view that despite the co-location of the project with an existing 200 kilovolt transmission line within the Lexington Bushland Reserve, there will be significant impacts on biodiversity within the Pyrenees Shire due to removal of native vegetation, disruption of wildlife corridors, and loss of habitat for native fauna. The project must provide for the expansion of revegetation to strengthen existing biolinks and establish new biolinks within the study area. In relation to Aboriginal cultural and historic heritage, it's Pyrenees Shire's view that the impact to Shire's cultural and historical heritage assets should be avoided. The project has the potential to impact on the visual setting of places with historic value. And moving on to landscape and visual amenity, Some of the key issues in Pyrenees Shire's view is that Pyrenees Shire landscapes included Central Pyrenees Range, as well as the agricultural plains, vineyards, cultural and historical landscapes, rivers, creeks, and small townships. Our landscapes are valued and sensitive because of their natural beauty, cultural heritage, tourism, and recreational value. It is acknowledged that even small visual changes to our landscapes can have a large impact. In relation to land use planning, it's Pyrenees Shire's view that the project will have a negative impact on productive agricultural land in the Shire. And also that renewable energy zones proposed as part of Victorian Transmission Plan and existing renewables project within the Shire could create cumulative land use pressures when combined with the WRL project. In relation to bushfire, it's Pyrenees Shire's view that the Pyrenees Ranges and surrounding grasslands have a history of fast-moving fires and are high bushfire risk locations. The Shire is already managing risks from climate change, fuel loads, and multiple infrastructure projects. The cumulative impact of renewable energy projects will directly increase fire risk, as well as each new project can increase ignition points and complicate firefighting strategies. In relation to economic impacts, negative impacts are anticipated for primary producers and tourism operators in the short and long term. It's Pyrenees Shire's view that tourism industry, which relies on wine tourism, natural scenery and heritage experiences, will be negatively impacted due to the visual intrusion of the project, which could diminish the visitor appeal of wineries and celladors, scenic drives and walks, and heritage and cultural landscapes. Construction phase disruption could also deter visitors in the short term, leading to economic loss. In relation to agriculture and forestry, it's Pyrenees Shire's view that the project will permanently remove some productive land from farming, and that the cumulative impact of renewables projects, coupled with tourism and dwellings within the Shire, places pressure on productive agricultural land. The project will continue to put this pressure, especially in high quality cropping and grazing areas. In relation to noise and vibration, it's Pyrenees Shire's view that construction noise impacts could detrimentally impact rural communities or isolated dwellings close to the project, particularly during tower erection, conductor stringing, and substation laydown area worker accommodation works. Given the construction timeframes, this impact could be extended over many years. In relation to transport, it's Pyrenees Shire's view that during construction, traffic impacts will include a significant increase in heavy vehicle movements, which will result in potential congestion and damage on local roads, which are not designed for high volumes or heavy loads. There are also safety concerns which are relevant for all road users, including farmers moving machinery, school buses and cyclists. In terms of social impact, it's Pyrenees Shire view that there is concerns being raised regarding the impact of social cohesion on our local communities based on the perceived and actual impacts to the scenic quality of our rural landscapes and character and sense of place of our local communities. And for these reasons and many more, that Pyrenees Shire and its officers are recommending that Council submits this report to the Planning Panels Victoria by the 22nd of August 2025, with a more substantial submission to follow on the 5th of September 2025, as agreed with Planning Panels Victoria. The Council continues to promote public awareness of the project. The Council participates in the IAC hearing process and seek to ensure representation at directions and public hearing stages. And the Council undertake ongoing advocacy on the project to ensure that the best possible outcomes are obtained for impacted landholders and our local communities. And finally, the Council publishes its submission and related materials online and provides updates after the IAC report is released.
Thank you, Mr. Gowans. So we have that recommendation before us. Do I have a councillor happy to move a motion there? Thank you, Councillor Wardlaw. Seconded, Councillor Toll. Councillor Wardlaw, would you like to speak to it first?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Gowans, for that, and Rachel Blackwell, the author of the report. Very detailed, a lot of information. I just wanted to bring up a couple of things to maybe add to the following report. So the Western Renewables Link proposal stated that there was about 900 trees going to be chopped down in one section. Now, I feel that this figure is not accurate, and I would really like for us to assess and monitor this, because some of the trees would be up to 500 years old, and I've got a great concern for the environment and the ecosystem in regards to that. So if we could add that in, I see you've got ongoing vegetation clearance, but I'd like a bit more detail in that, and also the impacts of bushfire on, for example, the amphitheatre CFA. As well as the others, because, you know, we've got to look after our volunteers and they're already stretched. We just need to consider that aspect of things as well, because it's going to be a busy time with a lot going on and there will be more fires. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wardle. I hand to Councillor Toll. Would you like to speak? Yes.
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Cowans and Rachel, for a very in-depth report on that. Not too many long-term positives coming out of this power line, is there, for the community? We're going to have a great big scar across it. As Councillor Wardlaw said, there's a lot of trees removed. My main concern is with the lay-down areas, the increased traffic. Who's going to put the fires out in their camp? Where's their sewerage going? Where's their water coming from? Who's going to repair the already deteriorated roads, particularly the Sunraysia Highway? You know, that's pegged out for an overtaking lane. That's probably going to come in after the event. It's disastrous trying to get up there at the best of times with grain trucks. You know, by the time you get to Coin Hill, you're doing 40 kilometres an hour. These are the areas that we've got to push for. It's great that, you know, WRL's putting some money into the communities with some Telstra towers and a few power upgrades and this, that and the other. We need far more compensation than that. We need major infrastructure done for our communities that are going to, if we're going to cop this power line coming through. But I think we're on the right track of pushing towards that. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Toll. Councillor Phelan, would you like to speak?
Sorry, thank you, Mayor. And thanks also to Mr. Gowans and to Rachel. It is a really comprehensive report and I think has picked up so many of the issues raised by residents. I did have the opportunity to attend council-run sessions in the amphitheatre and Landsborough, and also the AusNet information session in Elmhurst. And I heard many residents raise these issues, which are in the report. Sorry, my very dry throat. And I think what's stuck with me coming away from those information sessions is, you know, the real feeling, the strongly held feelings, obviously, of residents, not only the, you know, overwhelming majority who are so opposed to the impact, the lifelong negative impact on the stunning landscapes that they live in and have had for many generations, so many people. But the other thing I took away, which I found actually really disheartening, is the view that so many expressed to me that their voice doesn't matter. And you know, we know we're in a small population base, that no matter how strong their opposition may be to this project, there was this kind of quiet resignation that actually their view doesn't matter. And I think that's really sad. You know, I think we really have to, and I really like this report. It does capture the voices and the concerns of residents. And I think we need to keep raising these concerns. And I don't know if, you know, people living in the big cities can really understand the impact of this sort of infrastructure. It is massive infrastructure that is there for eternity, just how that is impacting the mental health of people, and also, as has already been raised, is causing real divisions in small, tight-knit communities, and that's a real worry for us. So, you know, what can we do to try and protect against that or repair? I don't know, but yeah, just it's disheartening. I think we have to keep raising the concerns as best we can and getting whatever benefit we can should this proceed once all of the concerns of residents have been raised. I do also think it is worth noting the presence of AusNet. They have come to all of these community briefings, and I do really appreciate that they were there to answer all of the residents' questions, no matter how technical. They also very freely acknowledged that there is widespread opposition to this project in regional areas, and I think, in some ways that is validating that they acknowledge there is opposition to this. But yeah, I think we have to keep pressing and raising the concerns of residents, because it's something that they will be living with, we all will be living with for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Phelan. Well spoken there. Councillor Farrow.
No, I think it's all been said. I agree with all that's been said.
Yeah, and I must admit I do as well. But I think just to echo councillor Phelan, it does feel it's devastating that our residents feel that they aren't being heard, and that a project like this. We've had a lot of community sessions now, which has been great, and I know I was at the Lexington one just a few nights ago. But at the same time, is it more about receiving information or being able to influence better decision making for something this large? And like you said, that will be around for a very long time. And just to echo again, councillor Phelan said that will have a huge impact, massive impact on our community. And I do thank again the officers for the amount of effort and information that went into that report, because officers did reflect what we're hearing from our residents who, heartfelt put these advice and submissions and put even their own submissions in as well. So we really want to, again, to say how much we do stand with our community in regards to this, but also we do, as Councillor Toll said, we want to be able to support our communities that are going to be so affected by this as much as we can, to be able to compensate if this does go ahead. So thank you again to everyone reiterating that, and again to officers, and we thank the future work that will go into that second submission. Officers will not leave a stone unturned in this regard. They've made sure that we've got enough time as well to be able to finesse those submissions. So thank you again. In light of that, then I will put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried. Thank you, everyone, again. We now move on to item 11.1.2, and that's the Lexington Flood Management Plan, the summary report. And I'd like to ask Mr. Gowans again, our Director of Asset and Development Services, to speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider the recommendations and final summary report for the Lexington Flood Management Plan. The Lexington community has consistently advocated for flood mitigation measures and the development of a comprehensive flood study for the town. In response, the Lexington Flood Management Plan was undertaken. The plan produced reliable flood intelligence to support emergency management. It included an assessment of the current flood impacts, an assessment into both structural and non-structural mitigation options, and recommendations for establishing a flood warning system for the township of Lexington. The significant support from the Lexington community contributed greatly to the success of the Lexington Flood Management Plan project through the provision of vital historical data, stories and photographs in the project's initial stages. The Lexington community were engaged throughout the project via regular community consultation sessions, on Council's engagement hub, and through a small community reference group. Several mitigation options were assessed as part of the study, including clearing Burnbank Creek of all non-native vegetation and some regrowth native vegetation, development of a levee along the western side of Burnbank Creek, development of a drain on the east side of Burnbank Creek, and combining the drain development and the development of the levee. The detailed investigation of each of the mitigation options is discussed in the Lexington Flood Management Plan Summary Report. The Lexington Flood Management Plan has identified the flood extent and impact on the township of Lexington. The mapping produced in the study enables flood emergency planning and response, as well as the statutory and strategic planning for Lexington. The summary report has recommended a planning scheme amendment to reflect the flood risk mapping and the designation of a flood-prone land. The Lexington Flood Management Plan also recommends the clearing of Burnbank Creek to remove all non-native vegetation, and was strongly supported by the Lexington residents. Therefore, it's the officer recommendation that Council 1 adopts the Lexington Flood Management Plan investigation as detailed in the Lexington Flood Management Plan summary report and the associated data review report, model calibration report, flood damages and mitigation reports, and the flood intelligence and flood warning assessment report. That Council supports the mitigation option recommendation to clear the Burnbank Creek in the vicinity of Lexington of all non-native vegetation. 3, that Council supports the removal of all non-native and potential removal of native regrowth vegetation from the Burnbank Creek where required on an annual basis within the limits of available funding or budgets, and seeks appropriate permissions for the removal of regrowth vegetation and other creek obstructions. 4, that Council seeks authorisation from the Minister for Planning under Section 8A of the Planning Environment Act 1987 to prepare a planning scheme amendment to incorporate the Lexington Flood Management Plan into the Pyrenees planning scheme by the appropriate policy and planning controls. 5, that Council, following receipt of authorisation from the Minister of Planning, prepares a planning scheme amendment in accordance with Section 12 of the Planning Environment Act 1987 and exhibits the amendment under Section 17, 18 and 19 of the Act. And finally, 6, that Council notes that Council will be briefed after public consultation to consider whether to prepare, adopt or approve the amendment under Section 20, Part 4 of the Planning Environment Act, or whether to refer unresolved submissions to a standing advisory committee or contacted by the Minister's office.
Thank you, Mr Gowns, for outlining that nice lengthy recommendation. But I will now ask the councillor please to move a motion to that recommendation, or an alternative. Councillor Toll, you're moving that, yes, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Ferrari. Councillor Toll, would you like to speak to that motion?
Thank you for the report, Mr Gowns. The report basically backs up what the community said initially, that to clear the creek out, and I think it's fantastic that we're recommending that we have an ongoing maintenance problem in that. And I just hope that we can get some funding to get started on it relatively quickly, and then hope for a hell of a downpour and see if it works, which I'm sure it will. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Toll. Councillor Ferrari? would you
No,
like
I
to
think
speak?
councillor Toll covered it.
Thank you very much. Any other councillors? Again, just to reiterate that there has been a lot of work, and we greatly thank the community for guiding us to be able to put that report together and the actions that would occur forthgoing. So without further ado, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried. Thank you. Item 11.1.3 is in regards to the war memorials maintenance. And again, thank you, Mr Gowans.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider the current level of support provided to maintain the war memorials and avenues of honour throughout the Pyrenees Shire. The table within the report shows the location, landowner, key liaison group and body responsible for the maintenance of each site. And the table also outlines the current maintenance level where the maintenance responsibility lies with the Pyrenees Shire Council. Current maintenance levels are described as high, where Council provides a high level of maintenance, which includes regular mowing and gardening. A moderate or medium maintenance level is described where Council generally provides fire slashing and roadside maintenance, such as weed spraying and tree maintenance. And the lowest level described in the table is where Council does not actively regularly provide ongoing maintenance of the site, but performs work when requested on an as-needs basis. And as you'll see within the report, there's actually quite a number of sites in the Shire, and officers did note that during this report that there were some avenues of honour listed that we weren't currently previously aware of, that we will potentially be doing a little bit further work on identifying what their current status is, But it does also go to show that there is quite a lot of memorials around the Shire, and not all of them are just maintained by council. A lot of them are supported with volunteer works, and council absolutely thanks and acknowledges the community for the volunteer work that they do on those. Council is aware that there are some individuals that are currently looking to improve war memorials across the Shire, and officers are generally supportive of improvements. However, recommend that any improvements are well canvassed with the community and the key liaison groups are consulted. And council acknowledges and thanks all volunteers for their past and ongoing support. And it's the officer recommendation that council continues to maintain war memorials to appropriate levels that meet community expectations within the limits of council's budgets. 2, that council partner with volunteer groups to enable improvements to war memorials and avenues of honour, and to encourage applications from community groups for funding through council's community funding programs. And 3, that council seeks external funding where required to enable improvements to war memorials and avenues of honour.
Thank you, Mr. Gowans. May I ask the councillor to move a motion? Thank you, councillor Ferrari. Seconded, councillor Tull. Councillor Ferrari, would you like to speak to them?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I just have a question before I speak, Mr. Gowans, and I'm happy for you to take it on notice if you're not aware of the response or don't know the response. But I noticed the 3 memorials not maintained by council, and it's unknown who maintains them, being at Glenpatrick, Landsborough Memorial Hall and Waterloo Avenue of Honour, my understanding. And I'm just wondering, do we know if they're not maintained, are they in need of urgent maintenance?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Ferrari, for your question. They do fall into some different categories. The ones in Landsborough actually are well maintained, but they're maintained by volunteer groups, and they're not on land that's currently managed by council, and they're in quite good condition. There is potentially some improvements that I know that the Landsborough one that's on private land have been doing improvements over time, and I think are continuing to seek to do improvements on that particular site. However, ones that you raised, including the Glenpatrick Avenue of Honour, at this stage, up until researching where avenues of honour actually exist, we're not currently aware if there is actually trees associated with that avenue of honour that are still in a maintainable position, but we are seeking to undertake a bit more work in that area.
Thank you, councillor Ferrari.
Thank you, Mr. Gowans. I just think this is a really important initiative. And the level of importance and community expectation in maintaining our memorials just can't be understated. It's so important. And it's not about glorifying war or conflict, but it is about ensuring that those brave men and women that made such sacrifices, some absolute, are remembered, and the war memorials is an extremely important part of this. So it's a really, really important initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Ferrari. Councillor Toll, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Gowans, for your report. I know you've had a busy night so far up to date. It's amazing that we've got 23 sites throughout the community, which is fantastic. And the resurgence in Anzac Day and just the recognition that the public's taking on board, I think it's vitally important that we source some funding, seek some funding to maintain these sites because they're getting recognised. I know Mr. Davey in the gallery has done a hell of a lot of work at the Warborough site recently, and without individuals like that in our community that helping and supporting it, it's just not going to get done. So if we can find some money to maintain it, because as Councillor Ferrari said, it's not only the sacrifices that were made by the individuals and the absolute sacrifices, the community suffered a lot through that period. You know, the women were left at home. I know my grandmother, she was left at home to run the farm, and there was a lot of people in that situation and, you know, they went without a lot of things for a long time and we need to recognise that. So, well done.
Well said, thank you, councillor Toll. Any other councillors? Councillor Woodlord.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very passionate about remembering those who fought for us, including my grandfather and great-grandfather. We really do not want to lose the connection to the past. You know, it's a very important part of our past. And I agree, it's not about the fighting and the conflict, it's about the sacrifice. And I just want to note as well, the amount of people that attended ANZAC services this year reflects the importance to them as well. So 100%, we've just got to keep this going.
Thank you, councillor Woodlaw. Councillor Phelan, you're happy? Thank you. I think it has been really well said, and I was honoured this morning to lay a wreath at the Vietnam, the anniversary of the Battle of Long Tan here at the beautiful Beaufort War Memorial. And again, these memorials, it's not glorifying war in any means, in fact, but it's glorifying the spirit of those that gave so much, not just those that went to war, but those that had to look after what was back here, and those that wore the scars for many, many years in order to bring peace. And I think it's right now in the global situation, we cannot speak about peace and about looking after each other more. And I think these war memorials are an incredible indicative actual physical thing that represents that. So we not only give thanks to those men and women who have given so much, but we also thank those that currently serve to protect our way of life and our amazing country that we get to live in. So we give great thanks and recognition to those and all the people that work to maintain those sites, because it is, many of them returned us personnel themselves, they're friends of RSL, they're people that willingly give their time. So we give thanks. And thanks also to the council workers who go above and beyond to make sure they are well maintained as well and keep an eye, and people like Trevor. So thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Can I just say
Yes, you certainly may.
Thank you, Melanie. Just a little bit off track, but a similar situation. Years ago, we were on a car rally and we were in Canberra at the War Memorial. It wasn't open, and we got to talk to Randall. Randall was the guy that kept the fire going and cleaned up the poppies. And he said, "Oh, we're not open, but come back." We didn't have time. But he gave us all these poppies to take and throw around the countryside. And he said, an interesting thing, he said, every time you go past a date palm in a paddock or a house or a homestead, apparently they were given to families that, and I'm not sure whether they'd lost a child or whether their child was fighting, but that's why you often see 1, 2 or 3 date palms.
Loss of the family child.
It was a loss of a
Oh, wow.
So when you see a date palm in a paddock with nothing around it, you know, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
I learned something tonight, and all your viewers have learned something.
And there's still
Thank you.
poppies in my MG that's like confetti coming up. Yeah.
There you go. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. Any other comments or discussion before we move to the vote? I will now put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried. Thank you very much. We now come to item 11.1.4, which is the Rutherford Street, 63 Rutherford Street, Avoca item, and Councillor Wardlaw will now leave the room. And I will now get Mr. Gowans to speak to this item, PA 25042. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report considers planning application PA 25042 for the proposed use of land at 63 Rutherford Street, Avoca as a rooming house. The subject site is currently occupied by a single-storey dwelling positioned towards the north and close to the southern boundary. A vehicle crossover is located centrally along the Rutherford Street frontage, and the property also includes a shed and a carport. The proposal seeks to use the existing dwelling on the land as a rooming house comprising 4 bedrooms, accommodating a maximum of 4 tenants. Shared facilities include a kitchen, bathroom and outdoor area and 2 on-site car parking spaces. The application follows compliance action initiated by council after receiving reports of the premises operating as a rooming house without a planning permit. Upon advice from council that a planning permit was required, the operator submitted the current application. The site is located in the commercial 1 zone, and under clause 34.01-1 of the Pyrenees planning scheme, a planning permit is required to use the land as a rooming house in this zone. The application was advertised and initially attracted 29 objections. An additional 2 objections and a petition with 374 signatures, which was submitted tonight as part of the submissions, was submitted prior to this meeting, also opposing the proposal. Some of the key issues in the objections include the lack of community resources, the fact that there's insufficient local medical, mental health and addiction support services, that there's limited public transport access, there's an absence of 24-hour police presence, and there's concern that additional demand will limit access for existing residents. Another issue that was raised in the objections included anticipated behaviour of future tenants, fears of substance abuse, criminal activity and harassment, and concerns about lack of employment and financial stability. There was other community safety concerns raised, including residents feeling unsafe or harassed, and concerns with the accuracy in the application, with the allegation that more rooms were being available than stated, and that it was a claim that the proposal is more consistent with a halfway house than a rooming house. There was also a suggestion that the 134 High Street would be better used as a retail premise as an alternative land use preference. In terms of the Pyrenees planning scheme and the planning policy context, the relevant clauses of the Pyrenees planning policy and the municipal planning strategy include clause 02.03 part 1 around settlement, which supports consolidation of townships with improved access to services and a diversity of housing options. And following on from that, about clause 02 part 03-5 in relation to housing encourages a range of housing types to support a socially diverse community. At clause 11 under settlement and clause 16 under housing, the policy advocates for housing diversity and supportive infrastructure. Now, clause 16, it specifically supports the provision of rooming houses and also seeks to increase the supply of well-located affordable housing. The proposal aligns with strategic planning objectives by contributing to housing diversity and affordability in accordance with the planning policy framework. Rooming houses are fewer than 9 bedrooms. Rooming houses with fewer than 9 bedrooms are typically exempt from planning permit requirements under clause 52.23 of the Pyrenees planning scheme. However, planning permit is required in this instance due to the site's commercial 1 zone and its frontage characteristics, not due to the nature of the use itself. In relation to the response to the objections, in relation to the lack of community resources, planning controls do not prohibit rooming houses in small towns like Avoca. The availability of local services is not a basis for refusing such use under the planning scheme. Also, in relation to the anticipated resident behaviour and community safety, while these concerns are understood, they fall outside the scope of planning considerations. The planning system regulates land use, not individual behaviour. Also, in response to objections, the accuracy of the application. The application has been scaled back following advice from council. It now complies with the definition of a rooming house and meets relevant regulations. In terms of the nature of use, the proposed use meets the statutory definition of a rooming house, regardless of perceptions that it may operate as a halfway house. And in terms of the use of 134 High Street as a shop or as a commercial frontage, this property is not part of the application. If a permit is issued, it is recommended that the shared outdoor area be limited to the subject site only. The application is consistent with the objectives of the Pyrenees planning scheme and the Pyrenees planning policy framework, particularly in supporting diverse and affordable housing options. Council officer recommends approval subject to appropriate conditions. However, should council decide to refuse the application, clear planning-based reasons will need to be identified to support that decision.
Thank you, Mr. Gowans. I will now ask if there's a councillor willing to move that recommendation or a motion themselves. Thank you, councillor Finley. Were you happy to move that?
I'd like to move a
Yes.
motion.
Yes.
Thank you. And I move a motion to refuse this application. I do so on the grounds that the application is inconsistent with the municipal planning strategy, as the proposed location of the use within the context of a small rural town such as Avoca cannot provide the required access to services. The application is inconsistent with the planning policy framework, in particular clause 16.01, housing, as the location of the proposed use is within an area that has limited access to jobs, to transport and to services. The application has not considered the significant social effects that the application may have in accordance with section 60 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987. And with that motion, I would also like to add that I have heard, as my fellow councillors have, great support for diversity of housing and social housing in small townships like Avoca. However, residents also have concerns that those who are coming into their community are adequately supported. We are talking about people with high needs, and there is very little in the social support system in Avoca that can cater to those needs.
Now, if I might just hold a discussion, and I will
I'll
ask for
second
a
that.
seconder. Thank
Second
you,
that.
councillor
Apologies.
Ferrari. Not at all. Now,
I'll turn
please continue. Thank you, councillor Finley.
So I do believe that we have a duty of care, not only to the residents, existing residents of Avoca, but to those residents of the rooming house. We have a duty of care to ensure that they have access to services that they need. And currently we have no evidence of or there are no AOD services, there are no mental health services. We just do not have capacity to support, as we should, residents, proposed residents of the rooming house. And I also am really concerned just with the application that's come in, that there is no sense of perhaps focusing on a particular cohort of people who may require access to a rooming house. So essentially, in practice, what we may see is that there are women escaping domestic violence alongside perpetrators of violence. In a rooming house which has one shared kitchen, no living room, and people are stuck in their bedroom, otherwise stuck in their bedrooms. I don't think that's the sort of community support we want to be offering to residents, however transient or short-lived their stay may be. Residents with high needs, we need to do better. And yeah, I oppose on those grounds. Thank you.
Thank you very much, councillor Phelan. Councillor Ferrari, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to refer back to a response received from the applicant regarding objections from the community about this rooming house. And in that narrative, there's reference to perceptions about social housing being an issue, and that those perceptions are causing the community to have adverse reactions to the rooming house and the residents in there. I'd like to clarify that after hearing from the community last Monday, their responses to the rooming house and the occurrences associated with it aren't perceptions, as they are incidents that have actually occurred, so they are reality, not perceptions. Now, many of, if not all, the residents that are currently housed in this residence and that are likely to arrive there are in a transition of rehabilitation and reintegration into the community. I fully support this and make it clear that these residents are entitled to the assistance they need and deserve to help them on this journey. This is a feeling fully supported by the Avoca community, as we heard last Monday. When we talk about reality, there is some raw reality that needs to be observed in the situation. Yes, these residents are entitled to assistance, housing and support, but a major factor in them receiving this is the location of that housing. These residents need access to a whole range of support services and professional supports, most of which is not readily available in Avoca. The time delays experienced by these residents in receiving these supports create significant additional community and social issues. Avoca does have some access to health professionals and professional supports, but unfortunately these services are intermittent at best and not at a level frequent enough to support the very real needs of the residents of the rooming house. So I suggest that the application is inconsistent with the municipal planning strategy as the proposed location of the use within the context of the rural township of Avoca cannot provide the required access to services. Many of the residents of the rooming house require public transport to journey to appointments, to socialise and to experience the freedom they deserve. It's unfortunate that Avoca isn't blessed with sufficient public transport to support their needs. This is not unique to Avoca, but it is an issue experienced by many rural towns. There is also a lack of access to meaningful employment for the residents, and I would suggest that the application is in that context, the application is inconsistent with the planning policy framework, in particular clause 1601. The housing as a location of the proposed uses within an area that has limited access to jobs, transports and services. I don't profess to know the backgrounds of the residents of the rooming house, but it would be fair to say that many of them are from a metropolitan setting, and to then place them in a semi-remote rural town seems unfair. It is just a fact that country living is significantly different to metropolitan living and vice versa. So many of these residents would face issues with remote living and isolation. What I heard from the community regarding this rooming house is extremely concerning. There was a consistent theme of community residents feeling very unsafe, unsupported, a high level of fear for personal safety, and let down with a lack of transparency and communication, and a genuine fear for the future of the town, particularly its amenity. Suggested behaviour of the rooming house residents has been disturbing, and this has caused significant angst, particularly in the context of safety for Avoca residents. There has been some residents have significantly changed their recreational and social routines as a direct result of their genuine fear over the behaviour of some of the rooming house residents. I don't see this as acceptable. I also note in the Pyrenees Shire planning scheme, clause 65.1, it mentions the following: before deciding on an application for approval of a plan, the responsible authority must consider as appropriate the effect on the environment, human health and amenity of the area, and I suggest that this is having a significant effect on the environment and the human element in Avoca and the amenity of the area, and the impact of the use of development will have on the current and future development and operation of the transport system. The residents of the rooming house in Avoca do need assistance in their rehabilitation, reintegration and development, and a major factor in this occurring to a satisfactory standard is the location of the residents. To place them in a rural semi-remote location and expect them to make satisfactory progress in the absence of direct access to the professional and social supports necessary is very unfair on them. So in that context, I don't support the approval of the application.
Thank you, Councillor Ferrari. Councillor Toll, would you like to speak to the application?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Phelan and Councillor Ferrari have summed up a fair bit of what I was going to say. I'll just draw your attention to what the Honourable Nick Staycott said in some correspondence here. It said, any concerns about conduct by residents that raise issues of public safety or criminal activity should be referred to the Victorian Police as a priority. Got an issue with that. police station's only open 12 hours a day. What happens for the rest of the 12 hours in the day? Rooming houses are often the last resort in securing housing for some of Victoria's most vulnerable people. The government recognises that we must continue to work together with our partners in local government, the industry and community to ensure rooming houses provide safe, secure and fair housing for residents and the communities they live in. If that's the case, there's a population of 1,129 in Avoca. You've had 410 objections in a very short period of time. That's 36% of the population since last week signed a petition. Would it be 72% if we gave them another couple of days? Avoca's got an ageing population. There's no full-time doctor services. Closest 27 kilometres away. The nearest hospital's 27 kilometres away. There's very little public transport. As I mentioned, the police station's only open a limited time. There's very few job opportunities and there's very little entertainment. Our council plan that we're adopting says pillar 1, improve community safety. So the second thing in our community plan is we've got to listen to that 36% of the people that have already voiced their opinion. Our previous plan that we're still operating on until this one's accepted says reflect community consultation. So we've got to listen to those 410 people that have had the opportunity to speak to us. They'll always have a percentage that don't speak up. We've got to listen to those ones that have in a very limited time. So I reject the initial recommendation and go with the one that Councillor Phelan's recommended. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Toll. And I can't really add to that. It's incredible. Thank you for covering all those important aspects that affect our community at Avoca and we need to take into consideration when taking into consideration these sorts of planning applications. And again, getting back to our municipal planning strategy, our overall council plan in building up our communities and supporting our communities, but also supporting vulnerable people. We don't want to throw vulnerable people into situations that make them more vulnerable. We want to support them. So any planning application that we want to support, we want to make sure this support that and does just that. Again, too, just referring to our clause 1601 in housing as the location and proposed use. This planning permit was triggered by the fact that this rooming house is in a commercial zone. So we've again had to take that into consideration tonight. And we're also taking into, as we've quite heavily relied upon, but those significant social effects that the application may have in accordance with S60, the Planning and Environment Act 1987. So in light of that and the discussion that we have had, I will now put that motion from Councillor Phelan, seconded by Councillor Ferrari, to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried. Thank you all. And we'll just get Councillor Wardlaw back. Thank you. We will now move to item 11.1.5, which is the planning and development update for August 2025. And again, we're working Mr. Gowans tonight. Would you please present this report? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'll keep this one reasonably brief. This report was prepared to give Council a summary of activities within the Planning and Development Department. I'll take the report as read, as most of the information is for noting. However, it may be of some interest for Council. However, I would like to just point to Council's issues relating to animal shelters and pounds. Pyrenees Shire has a service agreement with the City of Ballarat to manage impounded cats and dogs. It has been renewed, however, the cost has increased significantly. And the costs are detailed in the report. Officers make every attempt to reunite animals with their owners before taking them to the pound. Because at the moment, the new fees are that the minimum cost, well, to council and then obviously to the owner is $550 to impound the dog, and it's $350 to impound a cat. So this, and then there's daily charges on top of that. Officers never fully recover the fees and only normally cover the external costs. And so therefore it's in everyone's interest to ensure responsible management, but where we do need to reunite, we try to do that prior to taking them through the pound. It's the officer recommendation that council notes the contents of this report and continues to explore opportunities to efficiently manage the escalating costs associated with the management of impounding animals.
Thank you, Mr. Gowans. I'll ask a councillor happy to move a motion in relation to that recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Phelan. Then Councillor Wardlaw seconded that. Councillor Phelan, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you. I do note that this is principally for noting, but Mr. Gowans, I was interested to see in the report that officers are looking and are in discussion with adjoining councils to seek less costly alternatives, and I was hoping you could speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Phelan, for your question. That's correct. We are speaking to a number of our nearby neighbours, including Ararat Rural City Council, who are potentially early discussions are suggesting that their fee structures might be significantly less. And again, we will utilise facilities that are available to us once we have the agreements in place, keeping in mind the cost to individuals. It's a lot of money. Sometimes animals do get out and do end up at the pound, and that the cost that we're talking about here can be quite significant for some individuals and families.
Thank you, Mr. Gowans. Is that all? Councillor Phelan. Councillor Wardlaw, would you like to speak?
Through you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to bring up something that might be of an opportunity later on as well. I know I've had lots of requests for a cat desexing program, again, the bus that comes around. And what I'm curious about though, what is the protocol and how could we possibly raise the age of registering until the owner can get their animal desexed, considering the lack of vets in the area? And I know I just feel that, we charge them a breeding rate. So maybe they shouldn't be on a breeding rate. Perhaps they should be able to pay, because they're planning to get their animal desexed, because the breeding rate's like $300 and something per animal compared to like 40 or 50. What could we do to help them within the first 12 months?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Wardlaw, for your question.
Can take on notice.
There'll be parts of it I will take
sorry.
notice, but in terms of kind of an initial response, I'm aware that some people have suggested in the past whether they could have a reduced fee because they have an intention to. Unfortunately, we have had the experience where people have said they've got that intention and haven't followed through. And when we come to the annual renewal, we still find that the animal hasn't been desexed. We want to put faith and trust in our communities that when they say they'll do something, that's a possibility. However, the rules around at what age you need to have the animal desexed are actually statewide rules, not just Pyrenees Shire imposed rules. So there are regulations around at what point an animal is recognised as needing to be desexed in terms of its registration category. but happy to take some parts of that on notice and keep investigating what our options are, and especially around a cat desexing program, if there's some things we can do to assist our community to enable desexing within timely period.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr.
Can I
Downs.
respond?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Gowans. So none of this is directed at you. This is just me thinking the problem through. There are lots of statistics out there now that, and this might be something that the state needs to look at, or Australia as a whole, that desexing dogs and cats before they're 6 months old is actually adverse for them later in life, that they really should be closer to 12 months old before they're desexed. So I just think, I'd just like to put that on record that, you know, perhaps these are the things we should be looking into, that you could go through a medical system to discover the issues, but yeah, it's an actual fact. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Woodlord. I'm learning lots tonight. Councillor Ferrari, did you want to speak?
No.
Or Councillor Tom? No? Beautiful, thank you. I'll put that into the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried. Thank you. We're now up to item 11.2.1, which is the Old Beaufort Primary School Master Plan Project Update. And I will now hand to our CEO, Mr. Nolan, please, to speak to this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. The purpose of this report is to provide an update to councillors and the community about the Old Beaufort Primary School Master Plan and the Early Works Project, and to seek council to revisit its position in respect of the management and ownership of their land. So currently the Old Beaufort Primary School site is Crown land and it's managed by the Victorian Government, apart from the former school oval, which council some years ago made a decision to purchase and is now the owner of that section of the site. For the last 10 years, the BPS 60 advocacy group has strongly campaigned for the site to be preserved and redeveloped as a facility that would benefit the community and the wider community, developing a social enterprise plan advocating for the school site to be redeveloped. As council is aware, the school was relocated to its current site around 12 years ago. A heritage assessment report was conducted in 2018 of the site, and in November 2021, the Victorian Planning Minister made an amendment to the planning scheme to rezone the land to general residential zone and to introduce a heritage overlay over the site, given the heritage value of many of the building assets. In March 2022, the advocacy group obtained over 2,000 signatures on a petition and addressed the Victorian Legislative Assembly and copied to the Pyrenees Shire councillors. Council considered that petition and council resolved to continue to support the community in its petition to the state government. In November 2022, the state government, via the member for Ripon, Martha Haylett, MP, announced an election promise of 800,000 to develop the master plan and early works for the conversion of the Old Beaufort Primary School site to a new community hub facility. Council considered a range of reports on this over recent years, and in late 2024, Council actually agreed to deliver the project on behalf of the Victorian Government to manage the process to ensure the development of a master plan and early works for the site, and that project is currently underway. Consultants Public Realm Lab have been engaged as part of this process by council to deliver that master plan. And councillors this afternoon had the opportunity to visit the site and inspect the buildings internally and externally. And in terms of the master planning process, there's been a range of community engagement associated with this project by Public Realm Lab, including a stage 1 survey and a stage 2 survey, which has just recently closed. In survey 1, the purpose of that survey was to identify gaps in the current community facility provision that might be filled by the development of a community hub in Beaufort. And survey 2 has which has been widely circulated, and my understanding has been a considerable amount of interest. And I thank all the community that have made submissions through survey 2. The outcome of survey 2 is the subject of analysis currently by the consultants, and that is underway. And that will be reported back to the community in due course, and to the committee and to the project steering committee. Recently, council had the opportunity to meet with the BPS 60 group, and a number of stakeholders gave a presentation to council in respect of their desires for this facility. Some of those community groups included the Lake Goldsmith Steam Rally group, the Beaufort Historic Society, the Vegemite Cyril Callister Museum, the Beaufort Photography Group, the Beaufort Municipal Brass Band, both the Pyrenees Community House, the Beaufort CWA, Food Pantry, and a representation from Mount Cole Cottages in respect of representing shortage of accommodation offerings as well. And so in the context of the amount of community interest in this project and the level of support that the project will require moving forward, this report sort of proposes or puts to council the opportunity to revisit council's position that was previously stated in resolutions in respect to the management and ownership. And previously, council had resolved that it was its position to seek that a separate entity be established to manage the development and site future, both in its resolution in March 2020 and then in March 2025, when council reaffirmed the intent of the council that the community or another entity, not the Pyrenees Shire, be enabled to manage the development of site into the future. So that position is the position of the council as it stands currently. And in the development of this master plan, consultants have identified that there is a challenge in identifying another entity to be able to take on the responsibility for this asset. Thus, this report for council to review its position. It's fair to say that in the previous council forming its position in respect of this, there were significant considerations of financial implications to council, given the age of the assets and the condition of the assets, and the extent to which council currently has responsibility for a range of community assets across the Shire. However, in the context of the significant community interest in this project, as reported in the report, it is suggested that council does consider this further, and some of those options may include council continuing to negotiate with the Victorian government about potentially taking control of the assets in some way, potentially being in committee management, or potentially being an owner of the site and what that might involve. Each of those options does have its risks, but it is important for council to consider providing support to the community and how it might actually do that. So, Madam Mayor, I'll just sort of, the report does have a recommendation there that council revisits or reconsiders its existing position on the entity, other than council should manage the proposed community hub in the future. So it's seeking that council reconsiders that position.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. So we do have that recommendation in front of us. Do I have a councillor happy to move that? Councillor
I'd like to make an alternative
Yes, absolutely.
recommendation, Madam Mayor.
Please go ahead.
I'd like to move a recommendation that council agrees in principle to take control through ownership or other negotiated means of the old Beaufort Primary School site and facility through a process of negotiation with the state government.
Thank you. May I ask for a seconder on that? Thank you, councillor Phelan. Would you like to now speak to that? Thanks.
Thank you,
Councillor
Madam
Ferrari.
Mayor. This project is supported by the Beaufort community and wider, and this was highlighted by a petition presented to council some time ago with 2,000 signatures attached, which is significant. Some advocacy and discussion was had, and an $800,000 was kindly allocated by the state government for a master plan to be developed and for some initial works to be completed. And thanks to Martha Haylett for her support in receiving this funding, and those works are currently, although that master plan is currently occurring as we speak. I do note there's been delays in the project, and as such, the project has been extended by 5 months, with initial supposed to be completed in November, but is now extended to March 2026. When we talk about assets, it goes without saying that asset management, maintenance and insurance is a costly process, especially in our region where a lot of our assets are ageing. There isn't or shouldn't be a council in the state that doesn't continually assess their assets and make decisions regarding their future, regardless of whether any further acquisitions of assets have or will occur. So it's really, really important we do continue to assess and reassess our assets, because they do cost us a lot of money, and particularly in Pyrenees where they're ageing. I think this resolution gives us genuine opportunity to hold relevant conversations with the state government in a solution of taking control of the facility. It also provides some flexibility for council to explore a range of options in moving forward, ultimately obtaining control of facilities. So we're not locked into a specific thing. It just gives us some flexibility in those discussions and how we move forward. So I think that's important, because there is an element of, without question, there's an element of unknown in what will happen in the future. So I think it's important to have that flexibility. And I note, as per Mr. Nolan's comment, there was a on-site visit prior to this meeting today, which all the councillors and council executive attended. We had a visit internally and externally of the site, and it's really, really important that the councillors got that visual examination of the site, so they truly understand what we're talking about when we talk about development and potential for that site. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferrari. Councillor Phelan, would you like to speak?
Thank you, and thanks, Councillor Ferrari, for that alternate motion. It was fantastic to be able to visit the site today and to see, number one, the amazing heritage value of that site, and the great location. I mean, there's so much potential for this site, and yes, we require significant support, potentially from the state government or from other funding bodies. But the site has huge potential, and I think looking at the heritage value, the potential, the very significant area, and the community support for this project, it's really important that we take the control that we can of this site to ensure that the opportunity doesn't pass us by, and we do also signal to the community that we see the importance of this site and its potential. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor Phelan. Other councillors, would you like to make a comment on that? Councillor Chum?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. What a great afternoon it was up there at the school. I'm not as fortunate as Councillor or the Madam Mayor of attending the school, but it was great to actually go inside instead of driving past something that's covered in graffiti and tinned up. And really, if you wanted to present it in a worse state, I don't know how you do it. But there's 3 rules in real estate: position, position, position. It ticks them enormously. We got 10 groups at the meeting the other night. They're all passionate about doing it, and they haven't got the capacity to run it or do it. We've got an organisation with an office, trained people. We've got the capacity to do it. So I think we've got to show some leadership and take it on. It's a great asset on a great holding of land. The potential to subdivide that land and develop it is enormous, and I think the money that you could gain out of that would well and truly fund it into the future. Although the building looks terrible, it is in fantastic condition. It's structurally sound. There's no water leaks. There's no roofs caving in. There's a few walls kicked in, but they'd go anyway. But it's very structurally sound, which is where your money's going to go in developing it. And I think Councillor Ferrari's motion is just terrific, that we take control, acquire it possibly, and move forward with it and providing a facility that the community is going to benefit like they did out of the primary school years ago.
Thank you, Councillor Toll. I think again, it has been said, it's an incredibly well-loved site, and I can say from personal experience, having 3 generations of family attend the school there, as many are in Beaufort and the surrounding districts. It has had a lot of memories, but it's got such a wonderful potential future, and we've seen that from the passion from all the groups that would benefit from it. But also we know that there's a lot of work that needs to go into this space, but we want to be able to back those people and back the community members, and then to be able to support our community, which it will be able to do so moving forward. So thank you again, and thank you for the time that people took today to be able to have that on-site visit. So in light of that, I will now put that Councillor Ferrari's motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried. Thank you. We now move on to item 11.2.2, and that's in regards to customer contact for 2024 to 2025. Offence. Sorry, Miss Editor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
This has got to go to Shan. Sorry.
So the purpose of this report provides statistical information on the contacts made with officers by our community through a range of media, including emails, telephone calls, websites, social media, and customer action requests for the 24-25 financial year. It is intended that this statistical data also be used to inform a review of councillors' customer service charter to establish service levels and expectations aligned to the new council plan. Council provided the following information as an overview of community contact with council over 24-25 financial year. Future reports will ensure alignment to our council plan 2025 to 2029, vision and underpinning principles, ensuring that we put our community at the centre of our service provision. It is intended, as I said, it is intended that this data be used to influence how we move forward with our customer service charter, and therefore the officer recommendation is Council 1 receives the report and 2 uses the statistical data in this report to inform a future review of Council's customer service charter aligned to the Council Plan 25 to 29.
Thank you, Ms. Edity, and I think there's a lot of information in there, but thank you for presenting that this evening. I'll now ask a councillor to move a motion in regards to that recommendation. I'll go Councillor Wardlaw, seconded Councillor Phelan. Councillor Wardlaw, would you like to speak to that, or happy as read?
Look, I think it's happy with it is, as it is.
Thank you. Councillor Phelan, any other councillors? Thank you, Councillor Ferrari.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
Editing. I just note on page 66 of the report for outstanding cars, Beaufort has one dating back to 2023. Are you aware of what that might be? I'm happy for you to take it on notice. Are you aware what it is? No, happy for you to take it on notice. And just another further question, sorry, just for my convenience and pardon my ignorance, but I notice on the same page down the bottom, telephone messages, it says outstanding telephone messages, June 25. Telephone messages received 100, outstanding telephone messages 44. Could you just explain to me what outstanding means, please?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So that does mean that they have not yet been closed. They may well be in progress, or they've provided initial response but haven't been able to close the response at this point in time.
Thank you. So it doesn't mean that the person that rang hasn't been responded to.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. That is my understanding, but I'm happy to also clarify that for you.
If you could, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms Edwards. That's all. Any other councillors on that? No, well, we'll put, oh, sorry, yes, councillor Tell.
I don't want to, thank you, Madam Mayor, I don't want to be let down by councillor Ferrari. Ms Eddy, could you chase up the one for the Ursula work going back a little bit earlier than Beaufort Ward, please?
Thanks again, Ms Edity. And on that note, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour, and that's carried. Thank you for the effort to go into that data collection. We will now move to item 11.2.3, which is the Council Plan 2021 to 2025, the end of the plan report on delivery. Again, thank you, Ms Edity.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report provides the council with a summary of achievements made that demonstrate the successful delivery of the Council Plan 2021 to 2025. Work was undertaken over the life of the Council Plan 21 to 25 to implement the multi-year initiatives designed to support the delivery of the plan. At the end of June 2025, this Council Plan is at the end of its 4-year life. It is a requirement of the Local Government Act 2020 that regular progress reports against a council plan be provided to the community. This report forms part of that requirement, being the summary of outcomes demonstrating the delivery of the Council Plan 21 to 25. The attachment to this report details a number of initiatives that were documented as contributors to the successful delivery of the 21-25 Council Plan. And the officer recommendation is that Council 1 receives the attached report showing a summary of achievements made in the delivery of the Council Plan 2021 to 2025, and 2, incorporates the outcomes of this report into the 2025 annual report, along with any updated data from the local government performance reporting when available.
Thank you, Ms Edity, and we know that attached attachment did outline a great amount of work that has happened over the last 4 years, and we thank you for that report. I will now ask a councillor please to move a motion to that recommendation. Thank you, councillor Phelan. Seconded, councillor Ferrari. Would you like to speak to that, councillor Phelan?
Thank you, Mayor. And I did have a question it's great to see the achievements, number one, so always really welcome to get that report back. But I'm wondering those measures where we didn't meet the benchmark or the criteria, so there's a few of them. So, for example, the annual percentage of staff turnover, that was below the 15%, it was to maintain below 15% for the years of the previous strategy, the council plan. And another area that jumped out to me was planning applications decided within required timeframe. Is there any analysis done as to why those benchmarks or those targets weren't achieved, and action that will be taken, particularly when some of these measures are also very similar to what's going into the new council plan? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the question. So I'll partially answer it, and I might have to pass to Mr Gowans in relation to the planning matters. But as you'd be aware, through the development of the 25 to 29 council plan, some of those measures are very aspirational. So we set them and we strive to them, but unfortunately sometimes there are things that happen and occur through that 4-year cycle that we just can't control, and we don't necessarily achieve them.
Thank you, Ms Edity. Mr Gowans, would you like to speak to the planning side?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, councillor Phelan. Look, I'll have to look into the planning benchmarks and take on board what Officer Meredith just stated in terms of trying to meet those aspirational requirements. I think what's really important in the planning space, though, is some of the planning feedback that's going to be coming to council next month through the survey of people who've interacted with the planning system. So there's some improvement work being done in the statutory planning space, and looking to provide a higher level of service, and understand that a new target has been agreed to in the new council plan.
Thank you for those responses, Ms. Edie and Mr. Gowans. I will now, got to second it, to Councillor Ferrari, would you like to, oh, you finished, sorry, Councillor George. Councillor Ferrari, would you like to respond?
No, not at this stage.
Happy, any other councillors on that plan? So again, we thank all the effort that's gone into that in the report, and I think it's significant what Councillor Phelan's drawn to too, as we move into adopting and implementing our new council plan. So, you know, we will be aspirational, but we really will try to work towards those aspirations as well. So in light of that, I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried. We're now up to item 11.3.1, and that is in regards to drought response. And I will hand over to our CEO, Mr. Jim Nolan, for this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to bring to council's attention a number of opportunities there are to support our communities in respect of drought, and both to bring to council's attention and to the community's attention, with a view to advocating and encouraging the community to take up those opportunities. The background report here does provide some identify some of the issues that are being, I guess, having to be managed by individuals impacted by this drought. From an agricultural perspective, in particular, the destocking and the increased fodder costs is something that is really hurting many of our communities at the moment. And certainly during the summertime and through into the autumn, into the winter, the carting of water has been a significant impact on our communities. The report does identify a number of opportunities to support our communities through events and bring people together, and a number of those events are identified in this report. The Victorian Government is providing a level of drought support for farmers across the Shire, and there's certainly a support package announced on the 4th of July. Some of those items are listed within the report. A couple of the things that are of particular interest that I just encourage the community to take up if they haven't made access to those opportunities. Firstly is the Rural Financial Counselling Service Wellbeing Officers. There's an opportunity there for free confidential support for mental health and wellbeing, alongside financial and small business counselling support. It's a really amazing service, and if any farmer that's impacted by the drought hasn't taken that opportunity up yet, I really encourage that to be to take place. And also the Household Financial Relief Program of payments up to $1,000 for drought-affected families to cover urgent household expenses. And any family, any members of the community that are struggling at the moment for some of those immediate urgent household expenses, if you haven't already taken this option up, I really encourage that to occur. And that's the primary reason of bringing this report to council, actually, is to raise awareness of those programs. Many of the other items here, councillors, we have discussed and brought to council's attention previously. We note and welcome some of the government's measures that have been made available. Certainly the Primary Producer Support Payment Program, which provides a 40% reduction in property rates for primary producers that have had a classification of farm rate on their rating for the 25-26 financial year. And those payments are will be sort of processed early in this financial year. We now had advice from government about that, and property owners, eligible property owners, have been notified in respect of their expected entitlement there. So that's very welcome news to those eligible farmers. Council, the recommendation in respect of this report is that council continues its participation in the Grampians Drought Coordination Committee on the implementation of initiatives to support our communities. The Drought Coordination Committee is one which is a multi-agency committee that looks at a range of opportunities to support our affected communities. Secondly, that council continues to raise awareness of the services and supports available to assist eligible members of the community to access these. As I've outlined, that council continues to support community events that contribute to community wellbeing, many of which have been really well attended and welcomed by the community. And that council supports events that assist farmers and farm decision making during challenging times.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. I'll ask a councillor who's happy to move a motion to that recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Toll. Seconded, Councillor Wardlaw. Councillor Toll, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Nolan. Just because it's green at the moment and there's puddles around doesn't mean the drought's over. We're staring down the barrel of a fantastic drought. It's a long way short of where we should be in rainfall total. So I think it's great that we're offering these initiatives. Mr. Nolan, I think you better get your team to keep planting them for a fair while yet, unless we get some significant rainfall. But we do have to offer that support to our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Toll. Councillor Wardlaw.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make notice as well of the people that are suffering at the moment through this drought. We talk about it at home a lot. It's really been going for 2.5 years now, and that's why all the hay sheds are empty and the paddocks are bare. And as Councillor Toll said, yeah, you know, it's a green drought. There may be a bit of green around, but it's really not helping yet. The animals are suffering and so are the families. So anything that helps them, I 100% support.
Thank you, Councillor Wardlaw. Any other councillors? Councillor Ferrari.
To support what the other two councillors have said, but like to just acknowledge that it says a range of community events have been initiated by various organisations, and that's true, and they're very well attended, and we're very well attended, and they're very, very important for that social aspect to people get off their farms and socialise, communicate, and just have a bit of a break for a day. In fact, I attended one with you on Sunday, Madam Mayor, and up at the Sun Beaufort Day Out. It was fantastic, which I'll speak more at a later date, but it was really well attended. It was fantastic. It was good to see people who I know in the community are suffering, just to get out, have a smile on their face and do something different than sit there worrying about where the next drop of rain's coming from. So I just hope that those events continue, and if the council can support those in any way, then we need to do that. It's very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferrari. Any other councillors? I will just back that, and we'll speak more about that in a moment. The amazing event that was held yesterday, but also thanks to all the personnel that have worked within council and other organisations to run a number of these forums. We had one in Beaufort and Avoca early in the piece before some of the other ones started, to be able to quickly get on board to support our farmers, both with mental health, with financial advice, with farming advice, and they were incredible events. So we thank everyone involved. And then, yeah, through to things like there was a Fat Farmers Feast that we supported in Snake Valley. We had Just a Farmer viewing, an incredible viewing and event that happened in Avoca, and to yesterday's event. So we can, even Apex, they run a fantastic event too. And we've been there to support them as council as well. And we will continue to do so, because I think, as has just been noted, a green drought might look like we're out of a drought, but we're not. And the impacts are now cumulative. So it's over years now that farmers are still feeding. Many are now very financially depleted because they've been feeding for over 12 months. And so it may look green, but the mental health, financial health is still very strenuous for much of our farming community, and we will be there to help them. Also speaking about the 40% relief, and also I've noticed the CFAs have also put out information about applying for the exemption with the new levy. All that information, we will have links to that information on our website, but also ring if you need further information about that, if it's not clear enough. But that mail out did go out in the past week, so hopefully that's been clear for residents, but please do ring if any of that is confusing. On that note, we'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried. Now that brings us to our council reports and general business. And Councillor Ferrari, I might hand to you because you might like to start with the amazing event that we attended yesterday, which is great.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I will start with that. And it was the Beaufort Fun Day.
Family Day.
Family Day out. And it was fantastic. And I congratulate the organisers, the Beaufort Agricultural Society and other groups that put that together. They did a lot of work. It was very successful. I would have thought there was at least probably a couple of hundred people there.
Yeah.
I also thank some of the local businesses who provided the lunch, which was fantastic. So that was provided by Magnolias, and also Rotary, where they're doing the usual sausage sizzle. So it was all very well received and appreciated by the community. And it was just fantastic. They had kids' activities there, which was really, really great. They had a panel of people there to answer questions for the community and to provide information, about mental health, about rural finance, were there, about counselling, financial counselling, all those different things. Lila McDougall was there from Just a Farmer, and she was one of the panel members and got asked some questions and had some really good, direct responses she provided and from the heart, and which was fantastic. It was all well received. So it was just a really, really good day. And like I said, I knew a lot of people in that room, and I knew a lot of them are suffering, but I could see the relief on their face just sitting in that room for the day, not having to be home, think about, where the next drop of rain or the next, bale of hay is coming from. So it just can't underestimate the importance of those days, and it was really well done. And I can again congratulate the organisers and thank you to all those that attended. Just in relation, probably just normal stuff, council briefing. I have had a number of meetings and phone calls with constituents. Had the Western Highway Action Committee meeting, some meetings with the Old Beaufort Primary School advocacy group, which is really, really good, and they're really passionate, and they have been for 10 years, and that's just such a great commitment from them. Cancel the workshop planning, cancel the workshop at Avoca on a couple of Sundays ago, and I'll just thank all the councillors for giving up their time on a Sunday. I know we we're all busy and we'll do, but we had a good day over there, and we had some good discussions about the way we can move forward, and I think it was really productive. I think that's about it from me. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ferrari. May I move around the table if I can choose my next victim, Councillor Colt? That would be wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's been the usual bits and pieces here going on, but you admitted before I missed the Just a Farmer screening in Avoca that I penciled in for there. I didn't get to see it, unfortunately, we had family commitments. But I think the damp weather has put people inside and get on the phone and ring a councillor and annoy a councillor or air your grief at the moment, because I've been getting a lot of those, and they've all been fairly well, issues that they've got with roads and bridges and various other bits and pieces going on, which been referred on to Jim, and he's taken great stance on those and got them all organised out, which really appreciate that, Jim. That the one in particular last week that seems to be some trees that seems to be sorting out. I'd just like to recognise our local footy clubs, Beaufort and Warborough. been a long time since those two proud clubs have been finished second last and third last on the ladder. Struggled, but it was pleasing to see Hepburn was below us. So that's encouraging, and good luck to Newland coming forward. On another note, I had the pleasure of going to Magnolia on Saturday night. How blessed we are to have an establishment like that in the Shire. That was quite a surprise to go there. It was a very good experience, and I think we might go there weekly from now on. But that's about all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor Toll. I might move Councillor Phelan. Are you happy to go next?
Thank you. So all the usual meetings, and also I'd like to echo Councillor Ferrari's comments about the really positive and productive planning day that we had with councillors on Sunday, a couple of weeks ago. So really good day, and thanks to all the councillors for making it such a good and worthwhile use of our time on the weekend. My last couple of weeks have been mainly focused on the WRL information sessions and trying to get some additional sessions for particularly Landsborough and Amphitheatre, and was really pleased to see the strong turnout in Amphitheatre in particular, and just how passionate community members are. I spoke to some of the issues that they raised, and I should clarify, when I said they didn't feel heard, it's certainly not by council, but they felt that, you know, decisions were really outside their hands. But yeah, great to be able to hear from the community directly and understand, you know, the issues that they're raising, and to be able to have that fed into council submission as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Phelan. And just I'd like to highlight a thanks from residents, because you did get some additional sessions, and they were very grateful for that to be heard, and for that to be able to go into our submission as well. So thank you for that and that time. So Councillor Woodlaw.
Thank you, everyone, Madam Mayor. So there's been plenty on. We've had lots of little briefings, and we did the councillor workshop planning that Councillor Ferrari mentioned, and we did get a lot out of that. It was actually a really, really good day. A lot of positive at the end of it. You know, it was really well worth doing. I've also attended the Avoca CFA Awards, which was back in July, and was sitting at the table with Martha Haylett. So plenty of discussion going on that night. But it was a really good night. Food was amazing. The people were great, and it really brought home, though, the amount of volunteers that are going out of the way to keep us safe. Great group of people. The other thing I attended was the Avoca Food Pantry AGM. At their AGM, they actually had the manager or the coordinator of Food Bank, and that was actually a real learning experience. He had graphs and, you know, the amount of people that are going without, and, you know, for the state. So it was really eye-opening. In Avoca, we've got 25 plus clients each fortnight. So, you know, when you think of Avoca, you said there was 1,129, 25 households plus are getting assistance from the Avoca Food Pantry, and they are doing an amazing job. It's quite incredible what they do. For example, there was an emergency identified. There was someone in town that it was noted that they had no food in their fridge, and I contacted the Avoca Food Pantry, and within 2 hours, there was a box of food, fresh food. It was amazing. So it was really, really good. And then I just also wanted to thank my other councillors for their support through the long weeks, and the council officers, and for, you know, making all the hard work and the tough decisions so worthwhile. And, you know, I really appreciate it. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Wardlaw, and thank you to Councillor Wardlaw for your support all the time as well. Very much reciprocated. And I think, can I just take on notice? I'm looking at Jacinta. I think it was the Beaufort Food Pantry had some issues with their van, just to take that on notice. But I might, just today I was notified of that. But if you can just take that on notice, so I don't forget to mention that, because they do a wonderful job too, both incredible people and volunteers that are part of that. I'll just quickly skim back. I did miss I was very unwell at the last council meeting, and I thank everyone in my absence for dealing with those items we had in July. I did want to quickly just duck back to a few things that I did do in July. I was part of the Save the Bush rally, which other councils were part of. Not to go back there, we've already spoken about it, but to absolutely confirm that we're still very much fighting against the levy and the other unfair sort of parameters that we're finding as a regional area that we will continue to try to change or make far more amenable to our residents. So there's a lot happening still in that space. There's a lot happening in the Not in Our Name campaign and a number of other ones. So we're certainly haven't gone quiet on that. I'm not sure that I mentioned, but the Beaufort Art Exhibition, incredible art exhibition that I was able to be privy to along with other councillors. Again, our communities keep working so hard to put on these events and to showcase our Shire, and it's incredible. I was part of the Central Highlands Water's drink tap installations. We've got a number now around the Shire, and it's incredible the communities that are benefiting from these, and we thank Central Highlands Water for that as we continue to move forward. I did attend the National General Assembly with our CEO in Canberra last month. Unfortunately, Parliament wasn't sitting, but we were able to access a number of ministers who came to speak and a number of experts in the field, and it's incredible. One area we'll just touch on is AI and how that is impacting us and will impact us as local government and across the community. So that's a space to watch, but I learned a great deal there. Also, it was a fantastic time to network. And again, with things like the levy and that really pertinent for us at the moment, the stronger we are connecting with our other LGAs, so important. That same week, we, as GBAC, with the other Ballarat and surrounding councils, we did meet with Minister Stakos last month. Again, very poignant to bring up those issues that are really affecting us. I spoke particularly on the levy and was very firm with our position on that, and we will continue again to advocate in that area. I did speak about the Fat Farmers Feast. That was an incredible event that happened in Snake Valley in July. We also had a Rotary changeover lunch. Again, we spoke about Rotary being part of the event yesterday. They continue to do incredible things. At the minute, they're sending young kids on Defying the Drift. It's an incredible camp that gets kids thinking about how they can support our agricultural industry and in very diverse ways. And it's just incredible. That's just one example. They're doing so many other amazing things. They're also helping with drought fund grants available too. So sing out and let people know about those. They spoke about them yesterday. We had our citizenship ceremony, which was fantastic. We had a beautiful array of citizens join our beautiful area that last month. And I also was part of the Beaufort Secondary College. I'm president of their school council, and there's amazing things happening there, just not only in physical works, but also programs that they're working with our young people and in the areas of leadership. So I just wanted to highlight that we are very, very blessed with that secondary school and what's happening there. So just a shout out to them. I attended the Scout presentations, both the Scout presentations the same evening that we had the Beaufort BPS advocacy meeting, but the Scout presentations were incredible. Again, we've got such incredible young people doing amazing things. There were two young girls particularly that got their grey wolf, which is quite involved to get that grey wolf badge or accolation, and that was incredible. So we even had ministers Dan T and videoed him for that and all that. That just shows the calibre of what our young people are doing that we may not know about. We did attend, the CEO and I attended the Rural Council's Forum in Yarrawonga just a few weeks ago. And again, fantastic opportunity and very important opportunity to catch up with our rural neighbours, not only just to look at, again, impacts that are affecting us specifically, but areas that we will come back to speak about. But housing was incredibly poignant in how we can utilise the new reforms that state government has out there to support our community, how we can help people utilise that to either add to their income or provide housing for family if things are really tough at the moment. There's a number of changes to planning applications for things like, say, the traditional granny flat and to make it a ease of application. So that's a space to look into. But again, it was fantastic to network up there. And it was also an incredible place to stay. The Seabull is only 5 years old. And I think it's a great example of a regional area investing to attract not only domestic but international visitors. So even that was a learning in itself. Yesterday, we did have the Beaufort Family Fun Day, and I was absolutely privileged to be part of that panel. I've had the most beautiful comments from community even today, thanking my involvement and others' involvement. And so thank you to those who I haven't got back to today, but it was an honour. And again, I'm just incredibly proud to be part of the community that I have been able to be generationally, but seeing people come together like they did yesterday and to support each other in all means and methods, it was incredible. Again, WRL, thank you all of you coming out. It's a strenuous thing, and it can be very stressful for people, but people have come out to those sessions and people have attended those sessions to help people. Thank you. Again, today, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Service, absolutely beautiful service, brought together people from around the district, from Ararat and all over to that. And then we were treated to a beautiful morning tea at the RSL. We're incredibly indebted to those people. We've already spoken about that tonight, but we thank you again from the bottom of our hearts, and lest we forget. Just to a shout out, again, well done to all the footy teams and good luck to those that made the finals. And finally, just a shout out for the Scarred book launch. That's going to happen on this Sunday. So I'm very much looking forward to that, and Hugh, his memories of that event that shook so many people, but one that we don't want to forget. The impact, so that we always move on in a positive way. So that's all from me. So thank you all, and thank you for all those in the gallery that have been here that will now leave as we move into closed council. So I will now ask a councillor to move a motion to move into closed council. Thank you, Councillor Ferrari, and seconding Councillor Phelan. All those in favour, and we'll now move into closed council. Thank you.